said, the Quran? That's a real tough task. He said, yeah. He said, I've been working on this for about 16 years, and I'm only through the second surah. At one point, I found myself in Amman, Jordan, and I was supposed to do an event. It got delayed, and the guy who was in charge of it said, you know what? Let's just take this as an opportunity. Let's just have a night out together. And I said, what do you want to do with me? He said, well, I spend my day as a radio commentator, but at night I'm a translator. I said, oh, what do you translate? He said, the Quran. I said, the Quran? That's a real tough task. He said, yeah. He said, I've been working on this for about 16 years, and I'm only through the second surah. Now, there are 114. Actually, if you get through the second surah, it's not bad, because it's a real long one. It's really, really long. But, 16 years, you start to parse out in terms of a person's life, and he was already 55 at that time. I thought, wow, he's not going to make it. But he said, you know what? It really doesn't matter. Again, he came back with Tabris, and he said, it doesn't matter as long as I get the basmala right. I said, that's only the first one. It comes up, by the way. The basmala, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, comes up 113 times at the beginning of chapters of the Quran. There's one that skips, and a lot of stories about why, but it doesn't really matter, at least in this context. What matters is every single chapter of this divine book starts out with the same phrase, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So if you're going to set on yourself as a nighttime chore, as an extra duty, time off for good behavior, or time dedicated as a devout Muslim to doing something, and you say it's translation of the Quran, you better hope that you get the basmala right. So we started out at 9 o'clock at night. We had tea at 4 in the morning. He went to pray and I went to sleep. But 7 hours, and we never got through it. 7 hours on this phrase, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And I'm going to tell you why we got stuck. By the way, we had no problem with Allah. I mean, everyone has problems. Oh no, Allah has problems with us. No, but when we got thinking about Allah, we said, all right, forget this business about Allah is the Arabic name for God, and God is something else in English, or let's do the Jewish way, G-D. He just said, you know what, it's God. And the real important thing is not the name, but your intention and your orientation, your qibla. He used the Arabic word qibla, which means it's also for prayer, but it's also your orientation in your heart to God. So what really matters, in fact, some of the early Muslims were called Ahlul Qibla, the people of orientation, which meant both how they prayed and how they thought about God. So he says, let's just say God. Okay, that's easy. But then what do we do after that? He says, well, I have a problem because I also like poetry, and I recognize that in the divine eye, in the wisdom of the beyond, there's a reason why Rahman and Rahim rhyme in Arabic. Now you may say, I don't hear that. Man, Im doesn't sound alike. Except even if you don't know Arabic, you can hear Rahman, Rahim. You can, can't you? Rah. And it's not this is not a basketball game or a football game. But but it does have elements of rahra, of saying, I want to get it there, I want to be right. So it comes actually, Rahim comes and it stems from a noun, and that noun means womb. So the basic attribute of the divine, of the God beyond attributes in Islam, so far as we can express it in English, comes closest to the woman, comes closest to the female form of womb or womb-like quality. And how do you register that in English? What is Rahman, womb-like one way, Rahim, womb-like and woman-like another way? So we talked about that. And he said, well, he says, you know, I think when you really get done with it, you have to say it's better to have, in the name of God, the compassion, the compassionate. I said, the compassion, the compassionate. In other words, one is a noun and one is an adjective. One is a statement, the other is a qualifier. I said, but both of them in Arabic, Rahman, Rahim, are qualifiers, are adjectival. Neither one is nominal. He said, but you can't make the two rhyme. This is where we got stuck at hour 3 or 4. I said, well, wait, we're back to fa'al and fa'il. This is two forms of Arabic. Fa'alan means inclusive. It means what you possess. It's sort of like ownership. Ownership, maybe would be fa'alan. Ownership, and fa'il is expressiveness. I own it, I give it. I got it, you know, I share it. So, okay, so if we think about this in terms of Rahman as I've got it, what does it mean? Mercy was one. Beneficence was another. Grace was another. And then we came to compassion. I said, wow, I really like that. I think compassion does it. I think that's stronger, and you all are poets, and you can have your own different and better translations than me or my friend Ibrahim al-Banab. But I said, you know, I think compassion, and I really resonate with the idea of Allah or God full of compassion. So Bismillah ar-Rahman. And Rahman, by the way, comes up as a separate, Rahim never does, but Rahman comes up as a separate title for one of the very important, most beautiful chapters in the whole of the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman, بِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which is the echo rhyme that's not a rhyme in that particular surah of the Quran. So Rahman is very, very powerful, and you want to give it that power. So to me, full of compassion expresses this ownership or this possession that is the first attribute that's mentioned in the Holy Quran of Allah or God. And then Rahim becomes what you do with it. If you got it, how do you get rid of it? Or how do you dispense it? So, and you're always dispensing it. There's not a dead end to it. It's not limited. It's not a quota system. So I finally said, you know what I think this is? I think this Rahim is always compassionate. But then he didn't like that. So how about ever compassionate? I said, I think I like that. So I came out with that. At the end of the whole thing, this is the end of my book also. In the name of God, full of compassion, ever compassionate. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.